I sometimes read public domain books here on Leaves of Glen, and they were written a long time ago, so they're usually racist or sexist or bigoted. But in there somewhere and all that is a story, and that's why those stories are famous. Other times, I read works from independent authors, and they're delightfully not racist, but they might have adult language or adult situations. So that's your warning, but I'm sure you are grown up enough to handle it. Don't write to me complaining.
Well, what's new with me? Dead rabbits. I got, after all the work I've done trying to keep vermin out of my basement, from mice to flies, I thought I won the war. I sealed up a bunch of cracks in the foundation around my house, and I thought, look at that, my basement's clean and quiet, there's no flies everywhere, I'm not constantly checking mouse traps and finding dead mice, like, this is great. And then, a couple days go by, and I feel like, well, look at that, I think I won. And then a bunch of flies flood in. And I was convinced they must be coming up from the drain, because where else would these things come from? Well, they come from somewhere because a rabbit died outside under my deck, and it must have been there for a while, because by the time I smelled it this morning, and I looked under the deck, that thing had been there for quite a long time, covered in disgusting maggots. So that explains all the flies. So I went ahead and I got that thing out of there and cleaned it all up and ran around caulking and trying to seal up more cracks. I'm just exhausted. It's been a long summer, trying to get progress on anything. And that's pretty much it. I don't know if I already said this in the last episode. I can't remember what the heck I said in the last episode, but I had a maintenance guy come down to clean the drains in the basement, and I think he probably put himself in quite the COVID danger, because he went to Wisconsin Water Park, the Wisconsin Dells. And I guess he went to some outdoor concert afterwards, so he's been spending all of his time around people, and he wasn't wearing a mask around me while he was doing the work, so I can't imagine that he's bright enough to do it while he's out in public. So I'm just counting down the days. That was last Wednesday. Just waiting. I got till Wednesday, so I show any symptoms. And the symptoms from people I've heard of are terrifying. One guy went to the hospital because of how bad he was doing with his lungs. And once he recovered and went home, he had a frickin' heart attack and had to go back again, because COVID doesn't just attack the lungs, it attacks other organs. So that's horrible. I got that staring at me. But no other reason to dive into a delightful summertime book. So with that, let's get into chapter 25 and 26 of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Well, let's learn a little more about Samuel Langhorne Clemens, also known as Mark Twain. Biography, yourdictionary.com, the more boring one, is his views on religion were rather different from the views held during his youth when he was brought up as a Presbyterian. So we'll knock that off the list. Totally not interesting. Though I did look up what was his racial views, especially while writing this book, or in his life. I couldn't find anything definitive. It was either people that were really against him and thought he was really racist, or people that were really for him, being progressive for his time. So, what I can figure out is there's pros and there's cons, from what I've gathered. The pros being that he was against slavery, even though his father and grandfather used to hold slaves back when it was normal for rich people to do that. So I guess that's, rising above the situation. He paid for the Yale Law School education of Joe McGinnis, which is Thurgood Marshall's mentor. And he helped raise money for the NAACP. And his masterpiece, Huckleberry Finn, was in part a social critique of slavery. So those things show that he was progressive for his time, at least, considering. The cons, lifelong prejudices against Native Americans, which would explain why Injun Joe in this book that we've been reading is just a thug and has no personality or depth or anything. He also didn't like the Chinese, which seems bizarre. I don't know why. Like, how many run-ins was he having with Chinese people or people from China? I don't understand. So, my history there is lacking. I don't know. I know that there was a time when there was an influx of immigrants from China over on the West Coast, so maybe that was his problem. I don't know. I don't know enough about him, where he lived, or the history of immigration. So he also wrote 2 essays on Jews that have been thought of as pretty bigoted. So Jewish people, Asian people, and Native American peoples. So you can't win them all. He's not going to be a perfect bastion for progressiveness, but I don't know. So, didn't really answer the question, so why don't we find out more about Fred Astaire? Turns out, besides famously being an abuser to his children, Cupid's arrow. His first lady interest was Ginger Roger. That didn't last long. They got together for the last time in the movie called The Barclay of Broadway, a Technicolor movie. He married to Phyllis Potter in 1933. She died of lungs cancer later. There's the writing I was looking for. In 1957, even after announcing his retirement with 30 musical movies in 25 years, Fred switched to television. We'll read one more. The end of the journey. Fred Astaire's journey ended when he was 88 due to pneumonia on the 22nd of June, 1987. Leaving behind his teaching and aspirations. When I was in the 7th grade. Well, with that, let's dive into the next few chapters of our story. Chapter 25. There comes a time in every rightly constructed boy's life when he has a raging desire to go somewhere and dig for hidden treasure. Oh, this again? Didn't he already do this? This desire suddenly came upon Tom one day. He sallied out to find Joe Harper, but failed of success. Next, he sought Ben Rogers. He had gone fishing. Presently, he stumbled upon Huck Finn, the red-handed. Huck would answer. Tom took him to a private place and opened the matter to him confidentially. Huck was willing. Huck was always willing to take a hand in any enterprise that offered entertainment and required no capital, for he had a troublesome superabundance of that sort of time, which is not money. Where'll we dig? Said Huck. Most anywhere. Why, is it hid all around? No, indeed it ain't. It's hid in mighty particular places, Huck. Sometimes inlands, sometimes in rotten chests under the end of a limb of an old dead tree, just where the shadow falls at midnight. But mostly under the floor of haunted houses. Who hides it? Why, robbers, of course. Who'd you reckon? Sunday school superintendents? No, I don't know. If 'twas mine, I wouldn't hide it. I'd spend it and have a good time. So would I, but robbers don't do that way. They always hide it and leave it there. Don't they come after it anymore? No, they think they will, but generally forget the marks or else they die. Anyway, it lays there a long time and gets rusty. By and by, somebody finds an old yellow paper that tells how to find the marks. Paper that's got to be ciphered over about a week because it's mostly signs and hieroglyphics. Which? Hieroglyphics, pictures and things. They don't seem to mean anything. Have you got one of those papers, Tom? No. Well, then, how you gotta find the marks? Well, I don't want any marks. Oh, they always bury it under a haunted house, or an island, or under a dead tree that's got one limb sticking out. Well, we tried Jackson's Island a little, but we can try it again sometime. But there's the old haunted house up the Stillhouse branch, and there's lots of dead tree limbs. Oh, dead loads of them. Is it Is it under all of them? How you talk? No. And then how do you know which one you're gonna go for? Oh, you go for all of them. Oh, why, Tom, it'll take all summer. Yeah, well, what of it? Suppose you find a brass pot with $100 in it, all rusty and gray, or a rotten chest full of diamonds. How's that? Huck's eyes glowed. That's bully. Plenty bully enough for me. Just you give me the $100 and I don't want no diamonds. All right, I'll bet you I ain't gonna throw off diamonds. Some of them's worth $20 apiece. There ain't any, hardly, but it's worth 6 bits, or $1. No, is that so? Oh, certainly. Anybody'll tell you. Haven't you ever seen one, Huck? Not as I remember. Oh, kings have slathers of them. Well, I don't know no kings, Tom. I reckon you don't. But if you was to go to Europe, you'd see a raft of them hopping around. Ooh, do they hop? Hop? Your granny, no. What'd you say they did that for? Oh, shucks, I only meant you'd see them, not hopping, of course. What do they want to hop for? But I mean, you just see them scattered around, in a general sort of way, like an old humpback Richard. Richard? What's his other name? I didn't have any other name. Kings don't have any but a given name. No? Yeah, but they don't. Well, if they like it, Tom, all right, but I don't want to be a king and have only just a given name. Ooh, like an N-word, and that's the real N-word right there. Ooh, boy. Oh, that one stands out, just leaps out of the page. Oh, that's breathtaking. But say, where are you going to dig first? Well, I don't know. Suppose we tackle that old dead-limb tree on the hill, t'other side of the Stillhouse branch. I am agreed. So they got a crippled pick and a shovel, and they went out their 3-mile tramp. They arrived hot and panting and threw themselves down in the shade of a neighboring elm to rest and have a smoke. Oh, I do like this, said Tom. So do I. Say, Huck, if we find a treasure here, what are you going to do with your share? Oh, well, I'll have pie, and a glass of soda every day. And I'll go to every circus that comes along. I bet they have a gay time. Well, ain't you gonna save any of it? Save it? What for? Well, so as to have something to live on, by and by. Oh, that ain't no use. Pap would come back and to Thishere Town someday, and get his claws on it if I didn't hurry up. And I tell you, he'd clean it out pretty quick. What you gonna do with yours, Tom? Well, I'm gonna buy a new drum. And sure enough, sword, and a red necktie, and a bullpup, and get married. Married? Yeah, that's it. Tom, you ain't in your right mind. Oh, wait, you'll see. Well, what's a foolish thing you could do? Sorry, a message popped up on my computer and I got distracted. Well, that's the foolishest thing you could do. Look at Pap, my mother. Fight. Why, they used to fight all the time. I remember mighty well. That ain't everything. The girl I'm going to marry won't fight. Oh, Tom, I reckon they're all alike. They'll all comb a body. Now you better think about this a while. I'll tell you better. What's the name of this gal? It ain't a gal at all. It's a girl. Oh, it's all the same, I reckon. Some say gal, some say girls. Both's right. Like enough. Anyway, what's her name, Tom? Well, I'll tell you sometime, not now. Oh, all right, that'll do. Only if you get married, I'll be more lonesomer than ever. No, you won't. You'll come and live with me. Oh, now stir out of this, and we'll go to digging. Can you imagine being married, and all of a sudden this grubby Huck Finn shows up and just starts living at your house? Oh, they worked and sweated for half an hour. No result. They toiled another half hour. Still no result. Huck said, "Did they always bury it as deep as this?" "Sometimes, not always. Not generally, I reckon. We haven't got the right place." So they chose a new spot and began again. The labor dragged a little, but still they made progress. They pegged away in silence for some time. Finally, Huck leaned on his shovel, swabbed the beaded drops from his brow with his sleeve, and said, Where are you going to dig next after we get this one?" "I reckon we'll tackle the old tree that's over yonder on Cardiff Hill, back of the widow's. I reckon that'll be a good one. But won't the widow take it away from us, Tom? It's on her land." "She take it away? Maybe she'd like to try once. Whoever finds one of these hid treasures, it belongs to him. It don't make any difference whose land it's on. That was satisfactory. The work went on, and by, Huck said, "Blame it, we must be in the wrong place again. What do you think?" "It is mighty curious, Huck. I don't understand it. Sometimes witches interfere. I reckon maybe that's what's the trouble now." "Ah, shucks, witches ain't got no power in the daytime." "Well, that's so. I didn't think of that. Oh, I know what's the matter is. What a blame lot of fools we are. We gotta find out where the shadow of the limb falls at midnight. That's where you dig. Then confound it, we've fooled away all this work for nothing. Now, hang it all, we gotta come back in the night. It's an awful long way. Can you get out?" "Oh, I bet I will. Because we've got to do it tonight, too. Because if somebody sees these holes, they'll know in a minute what's here, and they'll go for it. Well, I'll come around and meow tonight." "Oh, all right. Let's hide the tools in the bushes." The boys were there that night. About the appointed time, they sat in the shadow waiting. It was a lonely place, and an hour made solemn by old traditions. Spirits whispered in the rustling leaves, and ghosts lurked in the murky nooks. The deep baying of a hound floated up out in the distance, and an owl answered with its sexual note. The boys were subdued by these solemnities and talked little. By and by, they judged that 12 had come. They marked where the shadow fell and began to dig. Their hopes commenced to rise, their interest grew stronger, and their industry kept pace with it. The hole deepened, and still deepened, but every time their hearts jumped to hear the pick strike upon something, they only suffered a new disappointment. "It's only a stone, or a chunk." Last Tom said, "It ain't use, Huck. We're wrong again." "Well, we can't be that wrong. We spotted the shatter to a dot." "I know it, but then there's another thing." "What's that?" "Why, we only guessed at time. Like enough it was too late or too early." Huck dropped his shovel. "Well, that's it," he said. "That's the very trouble. We gotta give this one up. We can't ever tell the right time. And besides, this kind of thing is too awful. There's a time of night with witches and ghosts a-fluttering around, so I feel as if something's behind me all the time, and I'm afeard to turn around, because maybe there's others in up front waiting for a chance. I've been creeping all over, or ever since I got here." "Well, I've been pretty much so too, Huck. They most always put a dead man in when they bury a treasure under a tree, so look out for it." "Oh, Lordy. Yes, they do. I've always heard that. Oh, Tom, I don't like to fool around so much when there's dead people. A body's bound to get in trouble with them, sure. Oh, I don't like to stir him up either. I suppose this one here is a stick to his skull out to say something. Oh, don't, Tom, that's awful." "Well, it just is, Huck. I don't feel comfortable a bit." "Say, Tom, let's give this place up and try somewhere else." "All right, I reckon we better." "Well, what'll it be?" Tom considered for a while, then he said, "The haunted house. That's it." "Oh, blame it, I don't like haunted houses, Tom." "Why, they're a darn sight worse than dead people. Dead people might talk, maybe, but they don't come sliding around in a shroud when you ain't noticing and peep over your shoulder all of a sudden with they grit their teeth in the way the ghost does. I couldn't stand such a thing as that, Tom. Nobody could." "Yes, but, Huck, ghosts don't travel around only at night. They don't hinder us from digging there in the daytime. Well, that's so, but you know mighty well people don't go about in a haunted house in the day nor the night." "Well, that's mostly because they don't like to go where a man's been murdered. Anyway, there's nothing ever been so seen around that house except in the night. Just some blue lights slipping by the windows. No regular ghosts." "Oh, well, where you see one of them, blue lights flicking around, Tom, you can bet there's a ghost mighty close behind it. It stands to reason, because you know that they don't anybody but ghosts use them." "Yes, that's so, but anyway, they don't come around in the daytime. So what's the use of being afeard?" "Oh, well, all right. Let's tackle the haunted house if you say so, but I reckon it's taking chances." They'd started down the hill by this time. There, in the middle of the moonlit valley, below them, stood the haunted house, utterly isolated. Its fences gone long ago, rank weeds smothering the very doorsteps. The chimney, crumbled to ruin, and the window sashes vacant. A corner of the roof caved in. The boys gazed a while. half expecting to see a blue light flit past the window when, talking in low tone as befitted the time and the circumstances, they struck far off to the right to give the haunted house a wide berth, and took their way homeward through the woods that adorned the rearward side of Cardiff Hill. Oh, what? I'm stopping there? Yes, because I got to go pick up my oldest daughter from her very first adorable job. So, that's the reason why I rarely ever record when I have kids here, because they eat up all my time. Even now as I speak, my youngest daughter has a friend over, and they're sitting upstairs, and I can hear them all the way down here in the basement. Which means that they can hear me, which is embarrassing, which is why I never do this. So thanks for listening, and I'll record maybe tomorrow.